This is really nerve-wracking. It's one of the most nerve-wracking things I've done on a car in ages.
Swagger down the street with your red lips and funky beat. You better hold your head up to the sky. I'm gonna roll with you till the day I die.
Hi and welcome back. Now, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that this is my 1981 DeLorean and it is fitted with a 1985 Renault Alpine GTA turbo engine, making it a period correct DeLorean Turbo. In the early 80s, DeLorean was working with Renault and they were testing the turbocharged engines for DeLorean for the next iteration of cars, but sadly in 1983 the company failed and the car never got built, apart from a couple of prototypes including a couple of single turbos and 2 twin turbos. Obviously, because the car never went into production, there was never a DeLorean Turbo badge. Now, this one you're looking at behind me is something that I designed and I 3D printed. I took the original DeLorean badge, which was found in some of the later models, on the bonnet, and I added the styling of the turbo that was being used by Renault in the 1980s, and I thought it was a pretty good fit. If you've been watching the channel, you know that I like making things from scratch, and doing the 3D print wasn't really enough because the finish isn't amazing. Yeah, it probably stands up to the 10 feet test, but once you get close, you can see it's a 3D print. So I wanted to go to the next level. So if we show you this, this is how it started. It's very simple, just a black PLA 3D print, and then using some very special pens, actually, not even painting or spraying it, I've actually colored it in, and that's what we've got here. And I did a couple of different examples. This one had a sort of a rounder finish, but not perfectly smooth. That one does look a little bit better, but I'm not overly happy with it. So I wanted to go to the next level. Now, I'd like to say a big thank you to the guys at Accujet who have done a lot of laser cutting for me since I started the channel, because they've been frankly amazing. And what they have done is made these components for me. Now I'm going to bring the camera over here so you can see a little bit closer. So I wanted to make a badge from scratch, and obviously it had to be made out of metal, and really it has to be stainless steel because it's going on a stainless steel car. So what we are actually doing is we're making it out of effectively 3 stages. This here is the back plate. You need something to actually stick everything to because you want the raised letter effect and you don't want the letters obviously falling through. So we've got a back plate, we've got a laser cut shape that all the letters sit into, and then we have our letters themselves. So if I take some of these out, you can see that we can build up the name. Now you can see here that some of the letters are very, very fine. The word turbo has had to be chopped up. So the U and the R are actually made of 2 pieces. But now what we've got to do is we've got to clean them all down, and then we've got to start assembling it. Now the correct way of doing this is obviously peeling off any protective tape. Then this piece needs to be glued onto the back piece. And then what we need to do is we need to spray this black, because obviously the back part of the badge is black, and then all the letters sit into to make them stand out more. But we've also got to clean the letters. You can see there's some marks and scoring, etc., etc. So we need to clean these individually. I'm not even sure what I'm going to use at the moment, but basically we need to get them nice and polished, because when we sit them in, we can't really do much to it apart from maybe just a bit over the top surface, because we don't want to risk scoring any of the paint or rubbing any of it off. So let's start putting this together. Now you can see on here there's very slight burrs in places where the laser goes all the way around and it comes back and it joins. You get a very slight lump just there, which we need to file off. So there is going to be a bit of manual work that goes into this, but ultimately what we're going to get is a very unique, I say unique, a one-of-a-kind badge. And it's little details like this that I've always loved really getting my teeth into, and this is the first time I've done anything like this particularly. I've made other components before, but I've never made a badge for a car from scratch and then had it made out of the correct materials. And just to remind you, this is all stainless except these components, which are made out of brass, so they need to be nicely polished. Now, as I have to deburr everything, I've got to do it very carefully with a very small file, because I don't want to damage anything or overfile it. Now, some of these I did actually prepare slightly in advance. You might be able to see here, you can see just where the burr was on this one. I actually want them to be a tight fit, so I may have to, that one's actually gone in, but I may have to tap some of them in at the end. This is the problem with having big, clumsy sort of engineer's hands, is for finer things like this, it's not particularly great having big sort of sausage fingers. But those are going in. I think for these smaller ones, I think I'm actually going to get some tweezers. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to go around and check each letter, and then what we're going to do is we're going to glue the two pieces together. So we just move that over like that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take off the components one by one. I'm not going to take you through the grief of me actually sanding them all, but I'm going to clean them all up, polish them down, and then basically get them ready to go in. So we'll skip this bit. Right, so now all the parts are cleaned up, these plates sit perfectly flat together. We need to glue them, and ideally what I want to do is glue around the edges because I want as little as possible of the glue to make its way into the recess where the letters go, because then they're going to stand proud. So let's mix this up and start getting this together so we can clip it in place, and it'll take about 20 minutes, half an hour to cure, and that's long enough for me to have a cup of tea, I suppose. Right, tea time. Cup of tea, and obviously some shameless branding as well. Okay, so that should have had time to cure now, so we're going to take these all off. Okay, that's looking pretty good now. So now we need to spray this. So first of all, we're going to have to spray it with primer. Then we're going to have to spray it black. Fortunately, it doesn't take too long to go off, and it's quite warm out here. So I'm going to do those next, but I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to get it everywhere. So I'm just going to shoot over there and do it quickly. Right, I'm really not sure what the best way is to polish these. I think with the brass, using this Autosol stuff that I've had for years should work pretty well. It might work for the stainless as well, but we're just going to give this a try, and I need an old cloth. Right, annoyingly, there are some marks on this one which are not coming off, and I think I'm going to need something slightly more aggressive. Now, one of my backup plans was certainly for the stainless is that I can use Scotch-Brite on it, and it will give it a grain, but then the car's got a grain on it, so it's not the end of the world, so let's give that a try. So in the end, I had to resort to basically a 320 grit, which was more aggressive than I wanted to go, but what was really good about it is it gave it these wonderful soft edges, and I think the original badge was actually cast in aluminium, so it had these rounded edges on it, so it's looking a lot more like the original, and I'm really pleased with how it's come out. So it's time to get the back plate and start fitting the parts, and this is where we find out if the paint's going to hold up. Right, so the back of the badge is actually dried, and that actually looks really, really good. Yes, you can still see the line out around the outside where the joins are, but when it's black, I just don't think you're going to notice it as much. So that looks really, really good. So time to turn it black. Okay, so the last stage, we've got our black back plate, and I'm just going to place a couple of these letters in just to see how it looks, and that is looking really, really good. The problem is when I put these in now, whether I push them in or actually glue them in, they're not coming out again, not without doing damage. So I think the best thing to do is glue them and just go straight into it. And let's just hope we don't have any problems along the way. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about this because the last bit cleaning up was probably an hour, just like sanding down the individual parts, and some of them are so tiny, but moment of truth, so let's do this. Okay, we're about halfway there. This is really nerve-wracking. It's one of the most nerve-wracking things I've done on a car in ages. I think we could have gone with powder coating, which probably would have worked better, but considering this is my first attempt, I'd say that's pretty cool. And now, let's see how it looks on the car. A nerve-wracking experience to say the least. My hands are still shaking a little bit. I just wanted to get it right, but I think it looks pretty wicked. And I hope you've enjoyed watching me make this. Here's the final thing.